Hey guys, we're hanging out in some open space in Southern California. Perfect place to take a ride on the new iZip E3 Peak DS dual suspension. And this thing's really been refined since 2017. It was the first year that they used the Bosch CX mid-drive motor. The price has actually gone down $200, which is impressive. And they've moved to boost hub spacing. So 110 in the front versus 100 millimeters. And then 148 millimeters in the rear versus 135. And that accommodates these Schwalbe knobby neck plus size tires. These are 27.5 by 2.6. That's equivalent to the 650B standard. And they have a great PSI range, so 20 to 45. Got these nice knobby tires. It's perfect for soft terrain, going off-road, getting a little bit of comfort in addition to the 120 millimeter suspension. So we've got RockShox Monarch in the rear. It has compression and rebound adjust there. And then in the front, got a compression clicker. This one says it's rated to 130 millimeter travel, but also 120 right there. That might have something to do with tokens, like if you're really dialing this thing in. And then there's the rapid recovery rebound at the bottom. 15 millimeter through axle up front, 12 millimeters in the rear, both very stiff, capable. They give you a better bracing angle by having the boost hub spacing, so those spokes can really handle the wider rims and those bigger tires. The suspension on this is called DW Link, and the whole rear section here, it doesn't pivot right here. It's kind of locked in, and that's where there's this wishbone thing in the middle. So it goes up and down like a parallelogram, and apparently it handles well under braking, but maybe not quite as compliant for bumps. So some of the other suspensions that tip forward a little bit more, whereas this one goes up and down. Also, I think it positions the motor in kind of a funky way. It seems like it's a little bit lower. I like how iZip has blended this with the down tube, and then you can see that it's stepped in here for the battery pack. It's a little bit wider. It's definitely a purpose-built frame, and they've got this alloy skid plate with vents on the bottom. And they've got this little bash guard, kind of a chainring protector up here. 18-tooth sprocket. They've got the riser pulley wheel with a plastic guide, so that chain is going nowhere. 11 to 42 teeth back here, SRAM NX derailleur, and it does have a roller clutch, so you can push this thing down, lock the clutch in, it'll stay there, so you can do service on the rear wheel more easily. You don't have to fiddle with that the whole time, and I think they've got that because it's a stiffer derailleur. It's going to hold a little bit tighter, designed for off-road use. The bike is awesome. I definitely like the color choice that they've gone with this year. You can see they've tied in some black because they've got the RockShox Reba up front, and that's stock black. They've also got the anodized black stanchions on both of those, so it's supposed to be a little bit tougher, maybe. You know, you've got grit and stuff hitting that. It's interesting the way this wishbone thing also acts as a shield, so you might still get mud on your back, but maybe it's not going to send as much mud and debris into your shock. Definitely like that. Both of these are air shocks, so they're a little bit lighter. This bike weighs about 52 pounds. It's about half a pound heavier than the 2017 model, and part of that's because now you get the PowerPack 500. Before you had the 400, so you know that's a pretty significant 25% increase in capacity. Still using high quality lithium-ion cells. Bosch has a 2-year comprehensive warranty for all their stuff. This is definitely a nice drive system, especially when you got the Performance Line CX with EMTB mode, up to 75 Newton meters of torque. I do want to call out that the locking cylinder on this is from Abus. I'm not sure if it comes with a key to light card, because this is just a demo bike, and we're actually at the headquarters for iZip a little while ago, and we brought these out to the trail. But again, Abus key, so you can stick this in here. Trying to be really careful because it doesn't have a kickstand. We got this stick here. Turn it, and it is spring loaded, so it automatically goes back. It's kind of nice to have that, so you don't have to worry about twisting and messing with it too much. This is 5.8 pounds, 36 volt, 13.4 amp hours versus 11 amp hours on the PowerPack 400. They are interchangeable, so let's say that you have last year's model and you buy the new one. Both battery packs will work with either bike, which is really cool. There's a little 5 LED charge level indicator on the left-hand side there, and you can charge the battery on or off the bike. And the charger, it's right over here. One of my favorites. 1.7 pounds, 4 amp output. It has the proprietary plug. Just a really nice charger compared to, we were looking at a Broza powered e-bike a minute ago, and this is 1.9 pounds, also 4 amps, but just look physically, it's bigger. So I'm a fan of that. Bosch does a really good job. It's all UL certified. And it's got that handle at the top so you can carry it around without dropping it. You don't want to drop this. Also want to avoid extreme heat, extreme cold. It's great to be able to take a battery off if you're hanging this off the back of a car rack or maybe one of those platform racks, just to reduce the weight a little bit. 5.8 pounds right there. And then when you put it back on, just listen for the click. There we go. You could hear it pop into place. Unfortunately, I've lost my kickstand though. Let's see if I can just push this down. We got some technical assistance here from Jim. You got it? We got the magic stick stand is what's going on there. So now that we're at this side of the bike, I want to call out really nice disc brakes here. I really appreciate we got 180 millimeter Magura in the back. This is the dual piston setup, a big pistons, and then quad piston caliper up front, 203 millimeter rotor, extra stopping power, big mechanical advantage over those heavier, larger tires and wider wheels. 2-finger levers up here. They're the Magura 54, I guess the MT54. Got those on both sides. Locking velo grips. We got the trigger shifter over here. One-way action on the high gear. Multi-shift, I think it's 3 shifts on the low gear. So you can go tick, 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 and then you're ready to climb. Really nice to see that. 70 millimeter stem. We got some risers here. 120 millimeter, 2 10s, and a 5. Just a clean, really sleek setup. Tapered head tube as well, in case you want to swap out that suspension fork at some point. And we've got a Velo Saddle iZip branded 31.6 millimeter seat post with quick release. So quick release all over this bike. I also like the pedals they've gone with here. These are Welgo aluminum alloy platform. They're kind of like BMX pedals. You cannot adjust the pins, but it gives you just a lot of platform area and relatively good grip just right out of the box. Okay, before we go up to the display, I want to talk a little bit more about the motor. So it's measuring the rear wheel speed. There's a magnet there and a sensor. It's measuring your pedal cadence and your pedal torque over 1,000 times per second. I mean, it's just really responsive. One of my favorite motors, but it is a little bit louder. And you'll notice that 18-tooth sprocket, that's really small. It's sort of a proprietary size from Bosch because it spins 2.5 revolutions for every single crank revolution. Okay, so it's supposed to give you better chain retention. And the thing is, if you're pedaling this bike without the motor on, or if you exceed the 20 mile per hour top assisted speed, there's a little bit of work that's happening, a little bit of extra friction that's going on in there. You have a big mechanical advantage over it with these longer crank arms, but it's worth noting it's one of the trade-offs that you make with one of the Bosch Performance Line motors right now. One of the things I really like about it is that this motor can support up to 120 RPM pedal cadence. So you can just spin, spin, spin without shifting gears, and you're still getting support, and you can go from descending to ascending without having to shift a bunch of times. And there's shift detection, so you're not going to be mashing and maybe banging up the chain, the sprockets, and the derailleur quite as much, because it's just a little bit smarter. So here we are up at the Purion display panel. This display is nice because it keeps the cockpit clean, it stays really out of the way, and it's got an integrated button pad. However, it's not removable, it doesn't swivel, and it doesn't have an active micro USB port the way that the Intuvia display panel does. Some iZip dealers will let you pay a little extra and they'll swap it out and they'll put the Intuvia there, especially if you need the bigger display. But this one looks pretty good. I'm just going to tap the power button on top. It's grayscale, it's got this faint white backlighting, which you can't see right now because it's a little bit too bright. But there's the power button on top. Plus minus, that changes assist level from no assist, Eco, Tour, EMTB, and then Turbo. EMTB mode is cool because it gives you kind of a full range of power output, and it's delivering that power based more on torque than just, okay, you're at this level, you clicked up, more power. It's more fluid, and it's great for mountain biking when you're, again, on terrain that can be really varied. So that gives you 120% up to 300%. In Eco, which is the lowest, you're just getting 50%. And then we go up to Tour, 120, EMTB, 120 to 300, and Turbo, 300. So we've got speed up here, that's miles per hour right now, but if I hold minus and then tap the power button, it goes to kilometers per hour. It's pretty handy. If you want to clear the menus, I think you just hold the minus button and the plus button together and it reset. There we go. If you hold the plus button, it activates lights. There's a little light icon. The thing about that is, this bike doesn't have any lights wired in, but there are a lot of e-bikes now with the Monkey Link setup, and you can actually wire lights into the Bosch system pretty easily if you work with a shop. So it's nice to have that. You can really do a lot with this display panel. And then the final one is, as long as you're not in off mode, you can press walk and then hold plus. And that's great for if you're kind of stuck in the sand or snow, or maybe you got a flat tire and you just want to You just don't want to walk the bike for a while, get off and walk, but you don't want to have to push the 52 pounds. The bike will help you with that. So that's pretty sweet. And then there's the battery infographic at the bottom, 5 ticks, 20% increments. It's not super precise, but you do have a range menu. So remember, I was holding the minus button a second ago when it was cycling through these different menus. So there's assist level, trip distance, total distance, and then back to range. It's saying, hey, we can get 53 miles in eco. And then I go up to tour and it says, okay, we're giving you more power. That's 27 miles. EMTB, it's highly variable. It says 20 miles there. And then turbo, all the way down to 16. So EMTB is probably somewhere between 22 to 16. You know, it really depends on how you ride. Depends on your weight, depends on the terrain. We got these big knobby tires. There's a little bit more friction happening. But again, just really nice to see all the cables internally routed. We've got that nice tubing. I think that's hydroformed. Beautiful color scheme this year. I think they've done a really good job on this, and just some nice upgrades. And to take the price down a couple $100 really surprised me, because there's some good components here, especially, you know, those hydraulic disc brakes from Magura. Just a big upgrade. So I think I'm gonna hop on this thing and give it a ride, and you can see for yourself, you know, how it works. Okay guys, I'm in EMTB mode here. I'm just gonna pedal along and then, you know, shine the camera down there so you can see the sprocket and get a sense for what it's like to ride. There we go. I think I've hit the maximum pedal cadence there, so I'm gonna shift gears a couple times. We're already up to 15 miles per hour. And I like riding with, you know, the suspension's completely loose. We got the air pressure set up right. It's just nice to get these bikes set up, and they feel really good, really comfortable. One finger braking right there, no problem. Got that big 203 millimeter rotor up front. Okay guys, we're with my buddy Jim Mayer. We're getting ready to head up a little bit more steep section. You know, people are always asking, how well do these climb? It's rated at 250 watts, but the Bosch CX motor offers 75 Newton meters of torque, and I think it peaks out above 600 watts. Yeah. So it's pretty good. You said you're maybe a couple 100 pounds?
200 pounds or so.
200 pounds?
Yep.
Okay, and the idea is you don't want to have to strain your knees. You don't want to have to, you know, struggle and get off your bike. You want to focus on balance. You're probably going to be in EMTB mode. Yep. That's a great mode for that.
Generally what I ride all the time. So.
Fantastic.
Yep.
I love that mode. So I'm going to just follow you, try to get some different angles, and we'll do it.
Okay.
And those plus-size tires, you know, really absorbing some of the bumps, giving him good traction. So Jim's raising his seat height so that he can get full leg extension without standing. He can rest on the saddle, use that to help steer, but now his legs go all the way. Nice, buddy. No problem. And this is pretty soft terrain too, so it adds an element of work that way. Nice. Okay guys, you're on the seat post of the iZip E3 Peak DS. You can see down here to that pulley wheel, the plastic guide, so we're not going to lose the chain. The smaller 18-tooth sprocket, it's going to be spinning 2.5 revolutions for every crank revolution. That's the reduction gear. Makes it really responsive and good chain retention. You're not going to get chain suck on this bike because they've elevated that chain. They dropped narrow wide tooth pattern, which I believe they had in 2017. We still got a really great range in the rear, 11 to 42 teeth. I'm just going to ride along. I'm going to shift some gears. Keep in mind this does have shift detection, so it's going to give us a little bit smoother, a little bit less drivetrain wear. And I love the slap guard. They got that rubberized thing, keeps the paint in nice shape. easy to get there. That was in turbo mode, so now I'm going to do EMTB, which again gives you the 120 all the way up to 300% feedback, just depending on how hard you pedal. Really soft right now. I'm going to gun it. I love how Bosch has the up to 120 RPM, that's pedal rotations per minute. So you can pedal fast if you want to. You don't have to shift gears in order to hit those higher top speeds. I think that's part of the reason you get there so quickly, is because you're not even worrying about shifting like you are on some of the other drive systems. Here's another angle on that pulley wheel, and I like that they also have a chainring protector. That's alloy. It's going to keep your pants and stuff from snagging. It's working pretty good in this soft terrain. Some of this is pretty sandy. You know, you've got the plus size tires, 2.6-inch width, and those nice knobs. Really bites in. It's a good bike for this kind of trail. Well guys, I think that's about it. I've had a lot of fun checking this out. iZip's been improving their product line a lot over the past several years, and seeing a bike with Bosch and then all those upgrades is not bad. $4,000, that's sort of like the lowest price point for a Performance Line CX motor that I've seen. Yeah, it feels like a pretty good value. For the full write-up on this, including all the specs, just all the details I've measured, I'll see you back at electricbikereview.com. There's also the forum, so you can ask other people for opinions, and I've reviewed the last 2 seasons of this bike too, so you can compare right next to each other with the compare tool. Have fun out there, be safe, and I'll see you on the trail. So Jim was kind enough to drive us out here, and he's got his truck all set up. Really nice. You got the rock sliders, the steps, and then this Hollywood rack. This is the non-e-bike rack, but it still secures them really well. It's rated up to 100 pounds, and since we've got a 52-pound high bike and a 46-pound Raleigh,
We're barely under.
We're doing it. We're doing it, yeah. And I guess they have a 4-bike hitch set up as well, and then you said there's a 200-pound rated e-bike
Yeah,
one.
there's a 200-pound e-bike for 2 bikes, which is great. I haven't tried it, but you know, it's got a 2-inch hitch on it, so it's going to hold it no matter what.
Yeah.
And the bikes never move on this thing.
Well, we didn't even take the batteries off, so that's something you know you can do. We were just in a hurry, but I just want to say thanks again,
Yeah, no
man. It's been
problem.
a really good time.